Having a good support system is really helpful because you're able to talk to someone about it. People can support you on wherever you're going through. I know that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, USA has Still I Rise for young men, and on Thursdays, Beautiful We for women, and then you can come through, talk about different issues, and then you can build that support system like that because now you have people like yourself that might be going through the same thing. So
Yeah. Oh, actually, I like that you brought that up. I've been to a couple like still rise sessions, and it's not as intense as it sounds. It's just like guys just chilling, like
yeah.
normal conversations. We do talk about mental health and whatnot, but it's like on a relaxed way. So it's not, you don't have to come in and dig deeply to experience, right? But you touched on something that I wanted to like expand on. So like like we said before, there's still stigma that asking for help or saying that you need that admitting that you have a problem is seen as a weakness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like so we know that people or some are not strong enough. Some certain people are not strong enough for that, right? So like, what would you suggest other people do? Like, so there's like we know that there's self medication. There's now like there's like marijuana is legal too. So like some people see that as an alternative too. So like, I guess the point is like, what would you give to someone who is still like not in denial but like still struggling, right?
Well, yeah, that initial stage is always the hardest because you're kind of in conflict with yourself. Like, is there something going on with me? Am I just am I just, I don't know, like, is it just in my head? Like, some people will be like, oh, it's just in your head, like, get over it, right? And then you have that whole self-diagnosis where you're, like, I don't know, but, like, sometimes you're be Googling it or whatnot, and you're like, okay, like, what's going on? But asking for help is always the toughest situation because you don't know if people are going to look down on you, and sometimes you kind of feel like some people might feel ashamed about it. So I would say, like, definitely finding that support system or that friend that you could be like, listen, this is what's going on, and then take it from there. Like, if you feel like you need that help, then from there, like, probably going to a professional.
Sometimes people don't have support groups, and the reality is sometimes you need to deal with it yourself. And if that is the case, I mean, for me personally, I would do something that makes me happy. And sometimes that's literally just laying in my bed and like watching movies, doing something for me, or going out and riding a skateboard, or just go to the mall, just something. And I feel like not everyone knows their own happiness, and sometimes the big difficulty is finding something that you can escape to, and something that just genuinely makes you happy, makes you feel like after you do it you want to do a backflip. And yeah, and for me that would be watching movies. I mean, for someone else, I could be riding a bike through a park or a trail or something. And I feel like sometimes you need to just it's hard because if you have a job, it's, well, I can't take time off. I have obligations. I have to be here and do this, do that. Mental health day, like, I remember there was a story about someone who called in sick to work once and literally said, like, I need a day for myself. Like, I feel miserable. And the boss was literally like, you're right. Take the day off. Like, you should. That is, you. So we're growing. Like, mental health is becoming a thing that is recognized. So, I mean,
Yeah, I think like it's something that we forget to acknowledge. Like this is a very very fast paced like era we're in, right?
yeah.
And and then I like that you mentioned sometimes you just need to take things into your own hands, right? Personal accountability. We had this conversation with a friend yesterday actually about the same thing, and like and TV shows can be another way to because it's like a kind of a social mirror, right? Do you think now there's like progress into like better representation for the black community in like entertainment? And do you feel like that's another way to help us gauge with mental health and kind of break the stigma?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate when um, writers and directors try to explain a narrative that a lot of people would relate to in the black community. I watched this play called The Other Side of the Game in November last year, and it shared this woman who, she was there for everyone, this this black woman who was able to kind of carry everyone through their problems, but she wasn't able to do that for herself, and it kind of caught up to her, and she ran into like, you know, some past things that she wasn't dealing with because she's always tried to be there for everyone. So I really appreciated that writer to share that story, because I think a lot of black women can relate to that. We will take care of everyone first instead of really focusing on ourselves. And like you mentioned, like you have to take those times and just like evaluate, like, am I good? Like, am I actually good? And not just bypass it, because it catches up on you. And if it's not dealt with, then we go to other things that are not going to necessarily help the situation.
In terms of like entertainment wise, as the black representation, of course, there's Black Panther coming out. Like, you know, everyone's talking about it. It's like the greatest phenomenon right now. And I find that it's one of those times within our society where like we feel like that unifying presence where everyone's like, yeah, like we made it, you know. And then on top of that, you have Oprah winning the I think it's a Cecile award at the Golden Globes. Awesome accomplishment. You know, another thing to kind of have us look up to someone, have a role model for black women and also black men, because from where Oprah has been and where she is now, like, it's been the greatest progression for us as black people. And that's just like one example, of course. But I find like in terms of, in that case, for mental health, it's not only just like looking at mental illnesses, but also in the ways that we might think in our mentality sometimes, like thinking that we're not good enough as black folk. And I find that that also leads to mental illness because of the like those ways of thinking. So
can I just add to that, like,
Sure.
like, yeah, those small like experiences that we go through on a daily basis relating to race, I think it really, like those microaggressions, like it has such a effect on us. Those little things like lead to trauma, like big things that we don't deal with. So it's great to see these successful black people doing such an amazing job and having that like to look up to. So yeah.